President Trump has been slamming the judge assigned to the legal battle over deportation flights. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg has been pushing back against the use of a wartime act to deport hundreds of Venezuelan migrants. Now it turns out Judge Boasberg has actually been assigned to another high-profile case, this one surrounding the fallout from the signal messages in the Atlantic article, which we've been talking about all day, right? Let's bring in CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen. Jake, good to see you today. This is quite a twist here. The first time I heard this, I thought, oh my goodness, this poor guy, another case, and he's been getting death threats and a bunch of accusations from the Trump administration. So what was your reaction to this?
The same as yours. And Judge Boasberg, who still is in the middle of this legal argument until we get some kind of circuit court decision, potentially either getting rid of the temporary restraining order that Judge Boasberg put on the deportation of these alleged Tren de Aragua gang members, or it's very well possible that they would allow Judge Boasberg to continue the road that he's on, which is to find more answers from the government, especially in what steps they are taking to give rights and due process to these people who have been deported and who would be deported if the order were lifted. Judge Boasberg was assigned to a case, and again, this selection process is random. He was assigned to a case in American Oversight versus Hegseth, which is a new lawsuit by a left-leaning watchdog group that has sued the Trump administration, including Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, over this Signal Gate issue, claiming that there's a violation of the Federal Records Act, and that because some of the messages in that chat, based on the Atlantic's reporting, were set to self-destruct after a certain number of days, that the administration, because they were having these official conversations that were not on classified servers, that there is a violation of and a destruction of real government documents. This group claims that the Trump administration is in violation of that. We'll see what comes out of it, but certainly just another high-profile case down here in Washington, D.C., under now a high-profile judge who really had, kept his name out of the news for a while after those January 6 cases kind of had run through his courtroom, and now he's back with two pressing issues. I'm sure that the president will respond to this in short order.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Jake, let's go back to the battle over the deportation flights. The DOJ has been pushing back against the judge's orders. In a court filing, Attorney General Pam Bondi and top DOJ officials argue the removals were legal and safeguarded Americans against members of a foreign terrorist organization. So, Jake, the question here is, what options does the judge now have?
Well, after the Department of Justice's filing last night, the plaintiffs, in this case, which is the ACLU, have until Friday to counter the government's argument that it did not break Judge Boasberg's order in not turning those two planes around. The ACLU has made no small order of this, basically calling it a rebuke of the judge and illegal. They will likely put all of this into a longer court filing due Friday. From there, Judge Boasberg has a couple of options, but the most potentially important and significant of this would be to motion and to move to find the government in contempt of his order. But without, as we saw on Monday night, without any details on these flights of who was on them specifically, what time did the planes take off, when were the migrants and alleged gang members loaded on. The big chunk of that timeline is missing. Judge Boasberg pledged in court on Friday to get to the bottom of that. So he's got a couple of different paths to go down. But until the circuit court rules, Judge Boasberg is going to continue asking the government and the ACLU for more information, including just, quite frankly, how many people is the ACLU representing in this case. They said they actually didn't know how many and where all of the potential people they are representing in blocking these deportations are located.
Wow. Okay, Jake, in line with deportations here, we've learned a Tufts University grad student is the latest to be taken into custody by ICE. What do we know about this case?
Right. We know that she was here on an international student visa, and that she was, according to social media footage that our team and this woman's attorney have verified, that there was a confrontation as she was walking on the phone. Some agents from Homeland Security or another federal law enforcement group went up to her and arrested her. This is very similar to all the cases that we've seen around the country, both in Columbia University, at Tufts. This student had signed a op-ed in the student newspaper calling for the university, Tufts University, to acknowledge that there's a genocide going on in Gaza by the Israeli government. And she had been part of an online group of names, and especially students and academics, who had spoken out against this. That it seems like the administration has, at least in some theory, followed that list. A judge did block her removal from the state of Massachusetts, but she is still being detained by federal law enforcement, and her attorney said they're not exactly sure where she is being held in Massachusetts right now. So same kind of process where judges have immediately blocked the deportations of many of these individuals and students and fellows at universities, but they're not being released from custody, and lawyers have had to fight to get more details about where their clients are even being held.
Wow. Jake Rosen, thank you so much for your time today.